What's up, y'all? Another Bible study, Bible reading, Matthew 22. Jesus spoke to them again in parables, saying, "The kingdom of heaven may be compared to a king who gave a wedding feast for his son. And he sent out his slaves to call those who had been invited to the wedding feast, and they were unwilling to come. Again, he sent out other slaves, saying, 'Tell those who have been invited, behold, I've prepared my dinner. My oxen, my fattened livestock are all butchered, and everything is ready. Come to the wedding feast.' But they paid no attention and went their way, one to his farm, another to his business. And the rest seized his slaves and mistreated them and killed them. But the king was enraged, and he sent his armies and destroyed those murderers and set their city on fire." Now this is speaking about Israel before Jesus. They had the opportunity to follow God, but they decided not to. And then he said to his slaves, "The wedding is ready, but those who were invited were not worthy. Therefore go out into the main highways, and as many as you find there, invite to the wedding feast." And this is speaking about his apostles, his followers going out and bringing people into the kingdom, having people follow Jesus. Those slaves went out into the streets and gathered together all they found, both evil and good, and the wedding hall was filled with dinner guests. But when the king came in to look over the dinner guests, he saw a man there who was not dressed in wedding clothes. Now the wedding clothes is the fine linen, the righteousness of the saints, not the righteousness that comes through Jesus, which we are saved. So our own righteousness is filthy rags. Jesus is the only way we can be saved through his righteousness. But this is speaking about the believers who are ready, who are walking in his ways. He saw a man who was not dressed in wedding clothes, who wasn't ready. And he said to him, "Friend, how did you come in here without wedding clothes?" And the man was speechless. Then the king said to his servants, "Bind him hand and foot and throw him into the outer darkness. In that place there will be weeping and gnashing of teeth. For many are called, but few are chosen." Now this isn't speaking about heaven and hell, but it's speaking about who's going to be saved out of the tribulation, who's going to be protected during that time, and who's going to be thrown into that time, into the outer darkness. That's why you have to be ready. You have to be walking in God's ways. If not, you're going to be thrown into the outer darkness, into the tribulation. For many are called, but few are chosen. Then the Pharisees went and plotted together how they might trap him in what he said. And they sent their disciples to him, along with the Herodians, saying, "Teacher, we know that you are truthful and teach the way of God in truth, and defer to no one, for you are not partial to any. Tell us then, what do you think? Is it lawful to give a poll tax to Caesar or not?" But Jesus perceived their malice and said, "Why are you testing me, you hypocrites? Show me the coin used for the poll tax." And they brought him a denarius. And he said to them, "Whose likeness and inscription is this?" They said to him, "Caesar's." And he said to them, "Then render to Caesar the things that are Caesar's, but to God the things that are God's." And hearing this, they were amazed, and leaving him, they went away. On that day, some Sadducees, who say there is no resurrection, came to Jesus questioning him, asking, "Teacher, Moses said, if a man dies having no children, his brother, as next of kin, shall marry his wife and raise up children for his brother. Now there were 7 brothers with us, and the first married and died, having no children, left his wife to his brother. Also the second, and the third, down to the 7th. Last of all, the woman died. In the resurrection, therefore, whose wife of the 7 shall she be? For they all married her." Now this is actually a true story out of, I believe it's out of the book of Tobit, which is in the Apocrypha, which was removed from the Bible a couple hundred years ago. But Jesus answered and said to them, You are mistaken, not understanding the Scriptures nor the power of God. For in the resurrection they neither marry nor are given in marriage, but are like angels in heaven. But regarding the resurrection of the dead, have you not read what was spoken to you by God? I am the God of Abraham, and the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob. He is not the God of the dead, but of the living. When the crowds heard this, they were astonished at his teaching. But when the Pharisees heard that Jesus had silenced the Sadducees, they gathered themselves together. One of them, a lawyer, asked him a question, testing him. Teacher, which is the great commandment in the law? And he said to him, You shall love the Lord your God with all your heart, and all your soul, and with all your mind. This is the great and foremost commandment. The second is like it. You shall love your neighbor as yourself. On these two commandments depend the whole law and the prophets. As they all come back to that. All the commandments are based on loving God and loving your neighbor. The whole law. Now while the Pharisees were gathered together, Jesus asked them a question. What do you think about the Christ? Whose son is he? They said to him, The son of David. He said to them, How does David in the Spirit call him Lord, saying, The Lord said to my Lord, Sit at my right hand until I put your enemies under your feet. If David then calls him Lord, how is he his son? No one was able to answer him a word, nor did anyone dare from that day on to ask him another question. That's the end of Matthew 22. God bless you guys.